Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. I was just told I was supposed to look at that camera, so that was it. So I've been a television writer for a long time, and I've worked on a bunch of shows. And a little over a year ago, I was asked if I would meet an Israeli filmmaker named Oded Turgeman, and I said, sure, anything that gets me out of writing, I'm happy to do. And I met with Oded, and he was starting to tell me about some Israeli shows that would I be interested in seeing Israeli shows and possibly bring them over here. And I've been to Israel a few times, and I was happy to see them. I didn't really know much about Israeli shows. I guess what everybody talks about is the show In Treatment. You guys all know the show. I mean, so a lot of Israelis here. There are a lot of Israelis here, so I have to know how much I can bullshit or not about what's going on in Israel. So you're Israeli right there, all right? So In Treatment on HBO, which is a fairly successful show, is a word-for-word translation of an Israeli show. It was the only one I knew, and then Oded exposed me to a few other shows. I saw this one show, which I don't remember the name. I'm a comedy writer. This show was a drama, and it struck me as X-Files on a kibbutz, which I didn't, it seemed interesting to me, but we don't really have kibbutzes here. We have cults like in Waco, and I didn't really think that would be a really good idea. So, but then he exposed me to a few comedies. And I don't know, for my Israelis here, if you guys know a show in Israel, it's called Haverim Shel Naor. Here it's called, or Naor's Friends. And I watched this show, and I thought that it was brilliant. I thought it was as good a show as any show I've seen here, better than I could write myself. So if I could sort of steal that show and do a version of it here, I'm all for that. So we got the rights to it. I met Naor. We didn't really steal it. We just, we got the rights to it. And I'm currently in the process of trying to sell that show here. It's, as we speak, it's being watched by executives from NBC, and Fox, and USA, and I'm very optimistic about it because I think it's great. Then I wound up becoming, I left my writing partner of 15 years to become a partner with Oded because I was so impressed by what he's doing. And I felt like it's not only good for business to import Israeli shows and creativity, it's also good for Israel because, you know, we all know that, you know, sometimes there's tough news, and you read all these crazy things that opinions people have about Israel. So to me, I was thinking that anything that brings a light on Israel, that there's good, creative, smart, funny people there, then that's a good thing too. So I joined this company, which is called the Operating Room, or the OR, which is light in Israel. Then they exposed me to a script. It wasn't even a show, it was a script that these two Israeli writers had written, an animated script. And I realized on page 2 that it was sort of wicked and crazy and as funny as anything that I have read. Like I think on page 2, there's these two 12-year-old girls sitting on the back of a bus, school bus, and one girl is complaining that nobody remembers it's her birthday, and the other girl says to her, well, you know what your problem is you're weak, because you care about things like that. And I have something for you. And she takes out a bottle of Jack Daniels. It says, if you drink this, it will make you strong. And the other girl says, well, how do you know it'll make you strong? And she says, well, because I saw my brother, when my brother had a few sips, he was able to pick up our television and throw it out the window. And when he finished the bottle, he was able to knock my mother's teeth out, and she's really hard to knock down. It's funny. It's for adults. This is not a Saturday morning cartoon show. So this is on page 2. And I fell in love with this script and subsequently said I would happy to attach myself as a showrunner. That's what I do. I have credibility with networks here and cable. So I'd say probably in the next 6 weeks, it's been illustrated by a top Israeli animator who's just brilliant. So in the next 6 weeks, we're going to be taking that show out to the networks. And I also I got to sit down with these two Israeli writers. Their names are Yanai and Daniel. And at first, you know, I've been in writers' rooms for 15 years, and now I was going to sit down with these Israeli writers. And at first, I was a little nervous because my Hebrew, like most American Jews, is limited to Eifo HaMachberet, Eifo HaIparon, and Manish Tana, and the rest of that. So for the first few minutes, I was a little nervous with these. Their English was much better than my Hebrew, but then, you know, so for a few minutes I felt like so we were coming up with ideas how to redo, you know, how to sort of rewrite the script and come up with future episodes to help us sell it. And after about 5 minutes, I felt like I was no longer in a room with Israeli writers. I was in a room with TV writers. These guys were funny. They were as good as any writers I've ever worked with. They were funny. They were twisted and dark and looking for distractions to get us out of writing just as much as I was. And so I've been to Israel a couple times in the last few years. I've met a lot of Israeli TV writers and producers and directors, and they're just as good, if not better, than me and all the people I've worked with, and it's exciting for me. And there's this wave going on of shows that are coming from Israel, and more are coming. In addition to In Treatment, there's a show in Israel called Prisoners, or Prisoners of War, that's about sort of 3 Israeli prisoners of war get found after 18 years, and they're brought back. It was on for 1 year in Israel, and it was a controversial show because when you're dealing with soldiers and army, it touches a nerve, but that show is being adapted by Howard Gordon of 24 for Showtime. And it just seems like almost every week more shows are coming. Now we have a video, about a 1-minute video clip of some of the shows that have come already and are still coming, and now I can stop talking for a minute.
Anything I should know before we start?
Oh, not really. It's more or less up to you.
Oh, right. I'm a customer.
Yeah. Though in my profession we say that the customer is always wrong.
What? You need to marry within the year, or you'll spend the rest of your life alone.
Are you screwing with me?
Look, I'm just telling you what I see.
Well, when am I gonna meet him?
You already have. You had a romantic relationship with him.
Do you have any idea how many men I've dated?
A lot.
Not a lot.
It's a lot.
Daria?
There are those who claim special powers. Now, the mind of Uri Geller and the mastery of Chris Angel.
כן. אותך אני אוהב הרבה יותר.
אני צריכה פיפי.
I like that shirt, Jenny. It makes your breasts look really good.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
That is amazing that you can get away with that. I could never get away with that. The only reason why you do is because of that stupid accent.
It's not the accent, it's the vibe, which has to be. I am not trying to sleep with you. I've already got a lot planned for the day, but I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to acknowledge the beauty of your breasts.
That worked really well.
Boom.
So that's just sort of a taste of shows that have come or in the process of coming, you know, and people sometimes ask me why is this happening all of a sudden, and I think that, you know, it's we're carnivores in Hollywood. We want to make shows that are successful. That if they come from Israel is a good thing, but you know, as all of you know who have spent time or lived in Israel, the difference between Israel, you know, Tel Aviv and Los Angeles or New York are much closer than Omaha, you know, where Gregory grew up. I mean, so it's really, there's so many similarities. I think it's a lot easier to adapt a show from Israel, and it's a privilege to do it. I think that's my cue. Does that mean I'm supposed to stop talking? The last thing I'll say is as a pitch, if there's any, you know, if there's any writers or producers or directors out here, and you have ideas for shows, I'm open to hearing them and not stealing them necessarily. Collaborating, Israeli or American, you know, I'm about making great shows, and that there's so many good shows coming from Israel. It's a really exciting thing because we make a lot more money doing it here than they do in Israel, so it's also an opportunity for Israelis to make a lot more money, which is a good thing too.